So now let's take a few questions. Yes.
Something on the panelists, the papers were great, very insightful. I just have a question for Guy, but you're welcome to respond as well. I appreciate sort of the ambitious nature of your paper, but I was curious about why you delineated such a sharp distinction between punitive reparations and sort of restorative or more holistic reparations. It seemed that the paper right before you, Joy's paper, sort of revealed that a sort of viable reparations project both promotes healing and damages, and it seems that the threat of litigation, like civil suits, does quite a bit to compel corporations to sort of, at least sometimes one of the few forms of recourse people have against sort of forms of inequality, right? So I just wondered why you're sort of bracketing that, right? Not to say that that's viable by itself as a strategy, but why is it so important to you to differentiate between punitive strategies and restorative strategies?
Because of the harm of punitive justice like mentalities to begin with, right? I mean, if we look at the prison industrial complex, right, it's founded on a conceptualization that harm happens and punishment is the answer to that harm, right? Rather than healing, rather than restoring. And so it's related to abolition, right? So my corrective there, and it is an intentional kind of corrective, is to draw that line such that we don't fall into the trap of thinking that punishment, right, and a punitive mentality, right, is the end game, right? So in one sense, I understand what you're saying. There's a short-term and a long-term game that you can play here. But my thinking is that any punitive measure that we undertake today must be understood as temporary at best and fatally kind of flawed at worst, because it reinforces that system of harm, which is the punitive state and the punitive criminal justice system.
Well, I guess I want to say, okay, so I'm someone who is a lawyer, and I've represented several of the Burge torture survivors, and I, to this day, still do, okay? And I teach policing right now. I think that the civil lawsuits are very helpful in uncovering the information, which often, as we know, because of the code of silence and other issues, it takes a lot to uncover these racist police practices. And I think that's, in fact, what has been done in the Burge torture cases. Without the litigation, the pattern and practice of torture would not have been uncovered. And the way that Mayor Daley and all the city officials knew about it, didn't condone it, and didn't do anything to stop it. But what I think is the civil litigation didn't provide the holistic remedies that we got from the reparations ordinance. And I think, unfortunately, the mainstream media constantly wants to say it's a legal settlement. It wasn't a legal settlement. It was a grassroots movement. It was a campaign on the ground. This was demonstrations outside the mayor's house and the office. And it was through mobilizing that campaign to get the politicians to pass the legislation that we got the most holistic redress we ever got in the Burge torture cases. And, and I think for me, what I'll just say is, I think we spend so much, I agree with Guy in that right now we spend so much of our time and energy, and we just believe in punishment. And we all have this desire for retribution. And I don't want to take that away from us. I mean, we want to hold these state actors responsible, and we want to hold them accountable. But I do personally think the criminal legal system will not work. Yep. And I think the more that we fuel the criminal legal system, it's actually just more funding a system that's used to decimate black and brown people. Right. And so I think, I get that it's not fully reparative. I think that we still lack accountability, but I wish we would devote more time and energy to thinking about how to meet the material needs of those directly affected and their families and communities, and we'd pour more of our energy into that and seeing that as a different form of accountability. And I think this is a huge issue right now in Chicago. It's a huge issue in municipalities altogether. But it's like, how much money is spent by cities to pay the litigation off? But the same practices keep going over and over again. And I can tell you, legally, we are prevented from being able to get after these pattern and practices. So I think there has to be another form of accountability. And I think that reparations as a model is one way of accountability. It's a different form of accountability.
And so to play kind of devil advocate or to see the side of this, the place where I think one of the other principles of reparations, right, is that those who have been harmed decide what constitutes repair, right? And so if those who have been harmed, right, demand retribution, and you can see several examples of this around the world. The best one I know is Sierra Leone, right? So the war crimes and the genocides that happened in Sierra Leone, they spent, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars prosecuting, I want to say it's like 7 individuals. And this was demanded by the community, right? They wanted these people punished, right? But when it came to the actual repair to individuals, people got like $300 each, right? The people who had been harmed were not centered in that process. And punitive justice doesn't meet the needs of those who have been harmed in most cases, right? And again, if people have been harmed or demanding it, that has to be accounted for in this wider kind of conceptualization, right? So I don't think it's an either or in one sense. What I think it is, I think that that transformative end, right, has got to be centered and understood from the beginning, that if we're making a strategic kind of move towards, okay, we're going to accept punitive because that's all we can get to right now through the legal system, let's take that, but know that, right, there's a bigger kind of orientation that we have to stay focused on.
Can I add something really quickly? From a Native perspective, with the name restoration, we're not anywhere near close to getting a day in court to get the lake back, to get our land back here, even though there has been some acknowledgement that it was stolen. If you look at the Lakota people, our relatives in South Dakota and the Black Hills, there actually was a court case. There is it's now over $1 billion sitting in a bank account, where the Supreme Court eventually weighed in. It went all the way up, and it was found that the United States government wrongfully took that land, and yet when it came time for compensation, the Lakota tribes turned it down. These are the poorest. These people are from some of the poorest counties in the country. And there's $1 billion sitting out there. They don't want it. They want the land. If they take that money, then that's one step. To them, it's one step away, one further step away from how they view their stewardship of the land. And to them, that's disrespecting the land. They're not ready to give up. And so that's just one other example of, I'm not saying that I would love to see a day in court where we could fight for B'dai Makaska and we could move back over there. That's not likely to happen anytime soon.
Maybe time for another question. All right, thank you all so much, and we will see you soon.